Hello everyone, and welcome to another fast recap. This time for Unit 3, Area Study 1. We've got a lot to get through here, so we're just going to go fast as. Let's move. Alright, Unit 3, Area Study 1, Microeconomics. First, we've got relative scarcity, which is the fact that we need to balance society's unlimited needs and wants against our limited resources to satisfy them. This leads to opportunity costs occurring as we need to make decisions about the best way to allocate our resources to maximize living standards. This means that no matter what decision we make, we are giving something up, which is the opportunity cost and the next best option foregone. So, then we've also got perfectly competitive markets, which are where there are many buyers and sellers, homogenous goods, which means that all the same regardless of who's selling them, easy of entry and exit, so anyone can come in and compete pretty easily, and firms are price takers. So this is where goods are relatively the same, so things like fruits and vegetables, so things like an apple, that's a homogenous good, so think of things that would be sold in Queenswick market, that tends to be perfectly competitive markets. The law of demand. So the law of demand is as price increases, quantity demand decreases. Demand starts with D, demand curve slopes downwards. This is what a demand diagram looks like. You need price, quantity labeled, and market for whatever market it is. Whenever the price changes, the selling price, it's going to lead to a movement, which is only going to lead to an expansion if price falls, or a contraction if price increases. So expansion means quantity demand increases, contraction means quantity demand decreases. You're just moving from one point on this line to another point on this line. Shifts are when any non-price factor comes into play. And that's going to cause favorable or unfavorable shifts. So things like advertising, etc., we're going to look at on the next slide. So favorable shifts, anything that's going to lead people to want more at the same price. You can see if we dash across, the price hasn't changed, people want more of it. So things that are going to do this are things like changing disposable income. If people have more income, they'll want more. If a substitute changes in price, so if a substitute item gets more expensive, people are going to want the original item more. If a complement gets cheaper, people are going to want to buy them together. If preferences and tastes change, if interest rates go down, if there's changes in populations, or consumer confidence goes up. Unfavorable shifts, any of those things, but the bad version of it. So it moves to the left when it's unfavorable, right to when it's favorable. The law of supply, so supply is all from the business point of view. Supply has up in it, therefore it's an upwards sloping curve. As price rises, quantity supplied increases. So businesses will supply more when price is higher because it's going to be more profitable. So when the selling price changes, if selling price rises, business is going to supply more, less an expansion. When selling price decreases, that's less profitable, so business is going to supply less, which is a contraction. The terminology is really, really important. With shifts, once again, non-price factors, that's going to be favorable or unfavorable. The only things that affect this are cost of production and efficiency. So those two things become the most important there. So when we look at it on the next slide, it's going to be all that we talk about. So factors likely to affect supply and the position of the supply curve. Any favorable shift is going to be to the right, look like that, where there's more supplied at the same price. Anything that's going to decrease our cost of production or increase our efficiency is going to cause that. Then when we look at unfavorable, it's the opposite. So anything that increases our cost of production or decreases our efficiency is going to cause that. Where less is supplied at the same price. So it can be things like technological change, productivity growth, climatic conditions. So if there's a bushfire, we're going to be less productive as we are, and that's going to cause an unfavorable shift in supply. So we've got equilibrium prices. So when we have a market diagram and we have everything on one diagram, things we need to show with this. When the price is set above the equilibrium point, it causes a oversupply as there is more supply than there is demand. When the price is set below the equilibrium point, this causes a shortage where demand outweighs supply. Other things that could occur here, there can be a shift in a diagram. So we might have a favorable demand shift. This means that there is more demand at the same price. This causes a shortage. Consumers then bid up prices until a new equilibrium point is met. We could have a different situation where, for example, we could have a favorable shift in supply. If we go over here, and if we ignore that previous line, when we've got the favorable shift in supply, there's suddenly more supplied at the same price, but there is not enough demand, so it causes an oversupply, and businesses start to decrease prices until a new equilibrium is met. Then we've got the role of relative prices. So relative prices are a comparison between selling price of two similar goods or services. These help lead decisions about what businesses produce or what consumers purchase. So basically what's going to happen is businesses are going to produce whatever is more profitable. We're assuming that demand and supply are constant in this. So demand's constant. So if a farm could grow apples or oranges for both and both sell $2 per kilo, it doesn't matter which they produce. However, if oranges increase to $3 per kilo, it's more relatively profitable for the business to produce oranges, and therefore it will shift productive resources into orange production because it's going to be more profitable for them. The meaning and significance of price elasticity of demand and supply. So there are three types of elasticity. Elastic, where things are going to a small price change. So a small price change leads to a relatively larger quantity change. So I like to think of this in percentages. So if there's a 5% price change, there's a 20% change in quantity demanded or supplied. That's elastic. Inelastic is the opposite, where a large price change, so let's say 10%, will lead to only a 1% change in quantity supplied or demanded, because inelastic is not responding as much. Inelastic is where it's just the same, so it might be 2%, 2%, and that's just when we look at the 45-degree normal demand curve line, something like that. So when we look at that as curves, so elastic, look at this. If the price change is relatively small, it's going to lead to a massive change in quantity demanded if we just go down a little bit in price. So things that can do this, so degree of necessity, if something is a necessity, it's going to be inelastic because price is not going to affect our decision making much at all. If the price goes up, we're not going to demand much less because it's a necessity. If something's not a necessity, if it's a luxury, it's going to be elastic because if the price changes, it's going to affect us a lot more. If chocolate goes to half price, we buy a lot more of it. Availability of substitutes, if there's not a lot of substitutes, something's going to be inelastic because we need to buy it because it's the only option. If there are a lot of substitutes, things tend to be more elastic because we can go to those other options. Our time, in the short term, if you need something now, it's going to be inelastic. So if you need to fly somewhere tomorrow, you're going to just pay whatever flights cost. If you can wait 6 months to look at flight prices changing, they're going to be more elastic because you can wait to see what changes in the market. With supply, things that affect our spare capacity, production period, and durability of goods. If you have spare capacity, so for example, if you're only operating at 50%, things are going to be more elastic because you can produce a lot more if prices go up because you can utilize the rest of your capacity. If you are already working at 100%, it's going to be inelastic. No matter how much the price rises, you can't produce more because you're already at 100%. Production period, if something's really quick to make, it's going to be more elastic because if the price goes up, you can supply a lot more. If something takes a long time to make, it's going to be inelastic because you can't respond to price changes quick. Example, fruits and vegetables, if the price goes up, you've got to grow them still. That's going to take months. It's going to take a long time to do. Durability of goods, if something is perishable, it is going to be inelastic because you have to just sell at whatever price you have. If the price goes up, you can't wait for the price to go up to sell it because it's going to go bad. If something is durable or storable, it's going to be elastic because you can store it. It's like baked beans, canned goods, honey, etc. If the price goes up with those, they can just ship them out from a warehouse, get them into stores, make that profit. Then we have the different types of efficiency. So we've got allocative efficiency, which is the optimal combination of goods and services produced to maximize living standards. To achieve allocative efficiency, this is going to be doing any kind of production that's going to improve living standards. So spending on health, education is a good example of that. So technical productive efficiency is the least cost for maximum output. So replacing workers with technology would do that. Dynamic efficiency is changing production to match society's changing needs and wants. I always talk about mask production with this last year when mask wearing became law. To be dynamically efficient, a lot of textile building companies moved their production from making clothing to making masks. There was a lot of demand for them. Inter-temporal efficiency is all about balancing resources between now and future use. So like using solar panels so we have more non-renewable resources available for the future. Then we have the effect of competitive markets on efficiency and resource allocations. Because competitive markets had those 4 preconditions from before: homogeneous goods, ease of entry and exit, many buyers and sellers. They're forced to use their resources as efficiently as possible or they will struggle to compete. So due to the fact there are many buyers and sellers, it means consumers can shop around and purchase them from the best value option to maximize their utility. This forces businesses to cost cut and increase their productivity to remain profitable, and therefore it makes us as efficient as possible. Then we have different types of market failure. So there are 4 main types that are in the study design that we're going to talk about and how the government corrects them. So public goods tend to be underproduced as they're not profitable. They're non-rivalable and non-excludable. Anyone can use them, and someone using them doesn't negatively impact someone else using them. Externalities are unintended positive or negative impacts on a third party because of production. So things like pollution is a negative externality. And for positive externalities, it could be things like increased house prices. If they build a school near your house, that can be a positive externality. Asymmetric information is when consumers do not have the full information to guide their purchasing. So this is where we fix it with health warnings, etc. I always think of secondhand car salesmen with this because they sometimes have more information about the car than the consumer and trick them into buying it. Then common access resources are resources which are freely available to be consumed by anyone. So they're rivalrous and non-excludable, so anyone can use them, but one person using them is going to take them away from someone else. I always think of fish in the ocean. If someone catches a fish, you can't have that fish. And so how the government fixes that. So indirect taxation, so they can use this to encourage consumers not to purchase goods and services which cause negative externalities, cigarettes, alcohol, etc. Subsidies to promote the production or consumption of goods and services with positive externalities. So things like solar panels have this involved, which then makes them produce a lot more, as they're going to have positive impacts and positive externalities. Government regulations, so laws, age limits, bans of certain things. Government advertising, so health warnings. Government intervention, so some things government will just pride themselves. So parks, footpaths, etc. Public goods that the government provides to fix that form of market failure. Lastly, a contemporary example of government failure or government intervention in markets to decrease the efficiency of resource allocation, like they've been using the COVID Safe app, because the government spent over $9 million on the COVID Safe app, as it would be used to find COVID close contacts and identify more cases. In the most recent wave of COVID-19, it has highlighted no close contacts and identified 0 COVID cases. That money could have been better allocated to better living standards by putting money into contact tracing, etc., to maximize our living standards. And that has been it for a fast recap of Unit 3 Area Study 1. We have somehow crammed this into 10 minutes. That was a lot. You probably haven't followed any of this, but if you enjoyed it, make sure you leave me a comment below, say some things, say some nice things, or send me any emails on sean@therunningeconomy.com if you want anything else. If you have any other requests for videos, let me know. Other than that, I hope you have a wonderful day, and I'll see you next time. Bye.